Zixra adjusted the neural interface of her exosuit, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic display before her. The Arcturian assassin had spent the last 3 standard cycles meticulously planning this operation. Every variable had been accounted for, every contingency prepared for. The target, a corrupt Centauri diplomat, would be eliminated with surgical precision, leaving no trace of her involvement. As she reviewed the plan one final time, a priority communication from the syndicate flashed across her vision. Zixra's antennae twitched in annoyance. Interruptions at this stage were unprecedented. Operative Zixra, the encrypted message read, "Your mission parameters have been updated. You will be working with a partner on this assignment. Rendezvous at coordinates attached." End transmission. For a moment, Zixra remained motionless, her exoskeleton rigid with disbelief. A partner. In all her years as the syndicate's top assassin, she had never required assistance. Her record was flawless, her methods beyond reproach. This was an insult to her abilities. Nevertheless, orders were orders. With practiced efficiency, Zixra packed away her equipment and made her way to the rendezvous point, a nondescript cantina in the bowels of Nexus Station. As she entered the dimly lit establishment, her enhanced senses immediately picked out the anomaly. A human male seated at the bar, nursing a drink that glowed an unnatural shade of blue. The human looked up as she approached, a lopsided grin spreading across his face. "You must be my new partner," he said, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. "Name's Jack. Jack Morrison." Zixra's mandibles clicked in displeasure. "I work alone, human. Whatever the syndicate's reasons for this arrangement, I assure you your presence is unnecessary." Jack chuckled, taking another sip of his drink. "Oh, I'm sure you're more than capable, but sometimes the universe throws a curveball. That's where I come in." Curveball. Zixra's translator struggled with the idiom. "It means an unexpected twist," Jack explained, his eyes twinkling. "I'm what you might call a chaos expert. When things go sideways, I make sure they go sideways in our favor." Zixra's compound eyes narrowed. "Nothing goes sideways in my operations. Every detail is accounted for, every outcome predicted and prepared for." Jack leaned back, studying her with newfound interest. "Really? And what happens when the unexpected occurs? When the target changes their routine at the last minute, or when a random event throws your carefully laid plans into disarray? Such occurrences are statistically improbable." Zixra countered, her antennae twitching with irritation. "My plans account for a 99.8% success rate, and that 0.2%. Jack pressed. "That's where I come in. The syndicate doesn't pair us up for no reason, you know. They must think this mission needs both our skill sets." Zixra's mind raced, analyzing the implications. Was there a factor she had overlooked? Some variable that even her advanced predictive algorithms couldn't account for? The thought was unsettling. "Very well," she conceded reluctantly. "We will proceed with the mission briefing. But I expect you to follow my lead explicitly. There is no room for chaos in my operations." Jack's grin widened. "We'll see about that. Now, what's the plan?" Over the next hour, Zixra laid out her meticulously crafted strategy. The target, Ambassador Vox of Centauri Prime, was scheduled to attend a high-security diplomatic function aboard a luxury starliner. Zixra had planned to infiltrate the vessel disguised as a member of the catering staff, using a sophisticated holographic implant to alter her appearance. Once aboard, she explained, her voice cool and detached, "I will access the environmental controls and introduce a specially engineered neurotoxin into the ambassador's quarters. Death will appear to be from natural causes, triggered by a pre-existing condition in the ambassador's species." Jack listened intently, occasionally asking questions that Zixra found surprisingly insightful. As she concluded her briefing, he nodded thoughtfully. "It's a solid plan," he admitted. "But what's our backup if the ambassador doesn't return to his quarters as scheduled?" Zixra's antennae twitched. "The ambassador's itinerary is fixed. He will return to his quarters at precisely 2300 hours ship time. And if he doesn't? Jack pressed. People are unpredictable, especially at parties. What if he gets caught up in a conversation or decides to take a late-night stroll on the observation deck? For the first time in years, Zixra felt a flicker of uncertainty. She had based her plan on months of surveillance and data analysis. The idea that the ambassador might deviate from his routine was troubling. Jack seemed to sense her discomfort. "Look," he said, his tone softening, "I'm not trying to undermine your plan. It's impressive, really. But in my experience, there's always an element of chaos in these operations. The key is to be ready to adapt when it inevitably shows up." Zixra's compound eyes studied the human carefully. There was something in his demeanor, a quiet confidence that she found both irritating and intriguing. "And how do you propose we adapt if such an unlikely event occurs?" Jack's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Oh, I've got a few ideas. How do you feel about improvised explosives and staged bar fights?" Zixra's mandibles clicked in alarm. "Absolutely not. Such crude methods would draw unwanted attention and potentially compromise the entire operation." "Maybe," Jack conceded, "or they might provide the perfect distraction we need. The beauty of chaos is that it creates opportunities you can't predict. You just have to be ready to seize them when they appear." As much as she wanted to dismiss the human's unorthodox approach, Zixra couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something important. Had she become too rigid in her methods, too reliant on prediction and control? "Very well," she said finally, her voice tight with reluctance. "We will proceed with my plan as the primary strategy. But I will consider your suggestions as potential contingencies." Jack's face lit up with a grin. "That's all I ask. Trust me, partner, between your precision and my chaos, we're going to make one hell of a team." As they left the cantina to prepare for the mission, Zixra found herself wondering if the syndicate had known something she didn't when they paired them up. Perhaps there was more to this human's chaotic approach than she had initially believed. One thing was certain: this mission was going to be unlike any she had undertaken before. And deep down, beneath layers of rigid programming and meticulous training, a part of Zixra was curious to see just what would happen when precision met chaos. Chaos unleashed. The luxury starliner Celestial Dream glided through the cosmos, its sleek hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside, the ship's grand ballroom buzzed with activity as diplomats, dignitaries, and the social elite mingled at the gala event of the season. Zixra, disguised as a member of the catering staff thanks to her holographic implant, moved through the crowd with practiced ease. Her compound eyes, hidden behind the illusion of human features, constantly scanned the room for their target, Ambassador Vox. "How's the view from up there, Bug Eyes?" Jack's voice crackled through their secure comlink. The human was positioned at the bar, his charismatic smile and tailored suit allowing him to blend seamlessly with the guests. Zixra's mandibles clicked in annoyance beneath her disguise. "Maintain radio silence, unless absolutely necessary," she hissed. "And do not refer to me by such crude epithets." Jack's chuckle came through the comm. "Relax, partner. A little banter never hurt anyone. Besides, it helps sell our cover. Two staff members who can't stand each other. Classic stuff." Before Zixra could retort, she spotted their target entering the ballroom. Ambassador Vox, a towering centaur with iridescent scales and multiple arms, made his way towards the center of the room. "Target has arrived," Zixra reported, her voice cool and professional. Proceeding with Phase 1 of the operation. As she maneuvered through the crowd, tray of drinks balanced perfectly, Zixra's mind raced through the next steps of her plan. In precisely 47 minutes, the ambassador would excuse himself from the gala and return to his quarters. Once there, the neurotoxin she had already introduced into the room's environmental systems would activate, ending the corrupt diplomat's life with no trace of foul play. Everything was proceeding exactly as she had calculated, until it wasn't. "Bah, we might have a problem." Jack's voice came through the comm, a note of tension creeping into his usually carefree tone. Zixra felt her antennae twitch beneath her holographic disguise. "Explain," she demanded, her eyes never leaving the ambassador. "See that Arcturian delegation that just entered? I'm pretty sure one of them recognized me from a previous engagement." Zixra's mind raced. There were no Arcturians on the guest list she had meticulously studied. This was an unknown variable, a chaotic element that threatened to unravel her carefully constructed plan. "Maintain your position," she ordered, struggling to keep the alarm out of her voice. "I will assess the situation and—" Her words were cut short as a commotion erupted near the bar. One of the Arcturians, a hulking male with cybernetic enhancements, had Jack by the collar, lifting him off his feet. "You cost me a fortune on Omega Prime, human," the Arcturian growled, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. "I think it's time I returned the favor." In that moment, Zixra saw her flawless plan crumbling before her eyes. Security would be alerted, the gala would be disrupted, and their target would undoubtedly be whisked away to safety. Failure was imminent. But then, something unexpected happened. Jack, dangling from the Arcturian's grasp, flashed a roguish grin. Now, friend," he said, his voice loud enough for all to hear. "Is that any way to treat the man who's about to make you the hero of this little shindig?" Before anyone could react, Jack produced a small device from his sleeve and pressed a button. Instantly, the lights in the ballroom flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Screams and shouts of confusion filled the air. Zixra, her enhanced vision unaffected by the blackout, watched in astonishment as Jack twisted free from the Arcturian's grasp and dove behind the bar. A moment later, the emergency lights kicked in, bathing the room in an eerie red glow. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all designations," Jack's voice boomed through the ship's communication system, somehow overriding the security protocols. "We apologize for the technical difficulties. But don't worry, the party's just getting started." As if on cue, the ship's sprinkler system activated, showering the guests with a fine mist. But instead of water, the air filled with the sweet scent of centaurid bloom nectar, a rare and intoxicating substance known for its euphoric effects on most species. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Some guests panicked, others laughed hysterically as the nectar began to take effect. Security personnel rushed about, trying to restore order and locate the source of the disruption. And in the center of it all stood Ambassador Vox, his scales shimmering in the red emergency lights, a look of utter bewilderment on his face. Zixra stood frozen, her mind struggling to process the rapidly unfolding events. This was precisely the kind of chaos she had always feared, always meticulously planned against. And yet, "Your move, partner," Jack's voice came through their private comm, snapping her back to the present. "I've bought you a window. What say we improvise a little?" In that moment, Zixra made a decision that went against every instinct, every bit of training she had ever received. She decided to trust in chaos. Moving swiftly through the confused crowd, she approached Ambassador Vox. The centauri, disoriented by the nectar and the commotion, barely registered her presence as she took him by one of his arms. "Ambassador," she said, her voice filled with artificial concern, "we need to get you to safety. Please, come with me." Too confused to argue, Vox allowed himself to be led away from the ballroom. As they exited into a deserted corridor, Zixra glanced back to see Jack giving her a thumbs up before disappearing into the throng of guests. Where are we going?" Vox slurred, the effects of the nectar evident in his voice. "To your quarters, Ambassador," Zixra replied smoothly, "where you'll be safe from all this chaos." As they made their way through the ship's winding corridors, Zixra's mind raced. Her original plan was in shambles, the carefully calculated timeline thrown into disarray. And yet, somehow, they were closer to success than ever before. When they finally reached the ambassador's quarters, Zixra guided the increasingly drowsy Centauri inside. As the door slid shut behind them, she allowed her holographic disguise to drop, revealing her true Arcturian form. Ambassador Vox's eyes widened in shock, a moment of clarity breaking through his nectar-induced haze. You're not. No, Zixra agreed, her voice cold. I'm not. With lightning-fast reflexes, she pressed a small device against the ambassador's neck. There was a soft hiss, and Vox collapsed to the floor, unconscious. Zixra stood over the prone form of her target, her antennae twitching as she processed what had just transpired. The mission was a success, but not in any way she had anticipated or planned for. As she initiated the final stage of her assassination protocol, Zixra found herself experiencing an unfamiliar sensation. It took her a moment to identify it, but when she did, it sent a shiver through her exoskeleton. It was exhilaration. For the first time in her career, Zixra had faced true chaos and emerged victorious. As she completed her task and prepared to exfiltrate, she realized that her perception of the universe, of her own capabilities, had fundamentally shifted. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered a dangerous, thrilling thought. Perhaps chaos wasn't something to be feared after all. The adaptive edge. The syndicate's clandestine briefing chamber hummed with an air of anticipation. Zixra stood rigidly at attention, her compound eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. Beside her, Jack lounged in his chair, feet propped up on the table, a stark contrast to her rigid posture. Your last mission was unconventional. The disembodied voice of their handler echoed through the room. But effective. The syndicate is pleased with the results. Zixra's antennae twitched, a mix of pride and lingering unease coursing through her. The chaos of their last assignment still haunted her dreams, a swirling vortex of unpredictability that both terrified and exhilarated her. Thanks, boss, Jack grinned, giving a mock salute. We aim to please. So, what's next on the hit parade? The holographic display flickered, revealing the image of a massive space station. This is Nexus 9, a supposedly neutral trading hub in the Outer Rim. Your target is this individual. The image zoomed in, focusing on a creature that seemed to be composed entirely of shimmering energy. And ethereal. Zixra breathed, her voice tinged with awe and trepidation. Jack whistled low. Well, that's a new one. How exactly does one assassinate a being of pure energy? That, their handler replied, is for you to determine. This ethereal, known as Zephyr, has been manipulating interstellar markets, destabilizing entire sectors for personal gain. The syndicate wants it eliminated, by any means necessary. Zixra's mind raced, analyzing and discarding potential strategies at lightning speed. Her vast database of assassination techniques seemed woefully inadequate for this unprecedented target. One more thing, the handler added, a note of warning in their voice. Nexus 9 is currently experiencing technical difficulties. Its security systems are behaving erratically, and large sections of the station are in lockdown. You'll be going in blind. Jack's eyes lit up with excitement. Sounds like my kind of party. Zixra felt her exoskeleton tighten with anxiety. Surely we should wait until the station's systems are restored. Operating with incomplete intelligence is exactly what this mission requires, the handler interrupted. The chaos on Nexus 9 provides the perfect cover for your operation. You leave in 1 hour. Good hunting. As the holographic display winked out, Zixra turned to Jack, her compound eyes reflecting a mix of determination and uncertainty. I am unsure how to proceed with this assignment. My usual methods may prove ineffective against an ethereal target. Jack stood, stretching languidly. Then I guess it's time for you to learn a new trick, partner. Sometimes, you've got to embrace the unknown and trust your instincts. Instincts, Zixra repeated, the word feeling foreign on her mandibles. I operate on logic and precision, not instincts. Well, Jack grinned, clapping her on the shoulder. There's a first time for everything. Come on, Bug eyes. Let's go hunt us an energy ghost. Nexus 9 loomed before them, a sprawling monstrosity of metal and light. As their unmarked shuttle approached, Zixra could see signs of the station's malfunction, sections dark and lifeless, others pulsing with erratic energy surges. "Remember," Jack said as they prepared to dock, "we're just a couple of traders looking to make a deal. Let me do the talking and try to look, I don't know, less assassin." Zixra's holoprojector flickered to life, shrouding her Arcturian form in the guise of a nondescript alien trader. "I am capable of maintaining a cover identity," she replied, a hint of indignation in her voice. As they made their way through the docking bay, the true extent of Nexus 9's chaos became apparent. Beings of all species rushed about in confusion, some angry, others panicked. Security drones zoomed overhead, their programming clearly glitching as they alternated between aggressive scans and complete shutdown. "This station's about 3 microbursts away from total anarchy," Jack muttered, deftly weaving through the crowd. "We need to locate our target fast." Zixra nodded, her enhanced senses on high alert. "Agreed. But how does one track a being of pure energy?" Jack's eyes scanned the chaotic scene before them, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, in my experience, even energy beings have habits, preferences. We just need to think like our target. Think like an ethereal." Zixra's antennae twitched skeptically beneath her holographic disguise. "Exactly," Jack grinned. "If you were a creature of pure energy, manipulating markets and causing chaos, where would you hang out?" Zixra considered for a moment, her logical mind struggling to adapt to this unorthodox approach. I would position myself where information flows most freely, where I could access and influence multiple systems simultaneously." "Now you're getting it," Jack exclaimed. "And on a space station like this, where would that be?" "The central data hub," Zixra realized, her compound eyes widening. "But that would be the most secure location on the station, especially during a crisis." Jack's grin turned mischievous. "Good thing we got a crisis specialist on the team then. Come on, I've got an idea." As they made their way deeper into the station, dodging malfunctioning security checkpoints and navigating corridors plunged into sudden darkness, Zixra found herself grudgingly impressed by Jack's ability to adapt. Where she saw obstacles, he saw opportunities, turning each new challenge into an advantage. When they encountered a sealed bulkhead, Jack quickly reprogrammed a cleaning drone to override the lock. When a squad of security officers approached, he started a convincing argument with Zixra, drawing their attention away from their true purpose. "How do you do it?" Zixra asked as they ducked into an empty maintenance shaft. "How do you formulate effective strategies with such limited information?" Jack shrugged, his eyes twinkling. Not really. I just go with the flow, react to what's in front of me. Sometimes the best plan is no plan at all." Zixra's mind reeled at the concept. A lifetime of meticulous planning and calculated precision rebelled against the idea. And yet she couldn't deny the results. As they neared the central data hub, the chaos around them intensified. Energy surges crackled through the air, and the very walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly glow. "I think we're getting close," Jack whispered, peering around a corner. "You ready to improvise?" Zixra hesitated, every instinct screaming at her to retreat, to regroup and form a proper plan. But then she remembered the exhilaration of their last mission, the rush of adapting to the unexpected. I believe I am," she replied, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. Jack flashed her a proud smile. "That's my girl. Now let's go introduce ourselves to our new energy friend." As they stepped into the pulsing heart of Nexus 9, Zixra felt a shift within herself. For the first time in her career, she wasn't just reacting to chaos, she was embracing it. And as the shimmering form of their ethereal target came into view, she realized that this newfound adaptability might just be the edge they needed to complete their most challenging mission yet. The hunt was on, and Zixra was ready to improvise. Paradigm shift. The central data hub of Nexus 9 pulsed with ethereal energy, waves of data and light swirling in mesmerizing patterns. At its center, the shimmering form of Zephyr, their ethereal target, hovered in a state of apparent ecstasy, tendrils of energy reaching out to interface with the station's systems. Zixra and Jack crouched behind a malfunctioning console, observing the scene before them. The Arcturian assassin's mind raced, trying to formulate a plan of attack against a being that, by all accounts, should be impossible to kill. "Any bright ideas?" Jack whispered, his eyes never leaving their target. Zixra's antennae twitched beneath her holographic disguise. I am uncertain. My database contains no precedent for terminating an ethereal. Perhaps if we could disrupt its connection to the station's power grid. Jack nodded, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Not bad, but I've got another idea. You trust me?" Zixra hesitated. A few weeks ago, she would have dismissed any plan that wasn't meticulously calculated and rehearsed. But now, after their recent experiences, she found herself nodding. Yes, I trust you." "Good," Jack grinned, "because this is gonna get weird. Follow my lead, and be ready to improvise." Before Zixra could respond, Jack stood up and sauntered into the open, arms spread wide. "Hey there, Sparkplug. Nice light show you've got going on." Zephyr's form pulsed with surprise, its tendrils retracting slightly from the station's systems. When it spoke, its voice was a harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very air around them. "Intruders," it hummed, a note of curiosity in its tone. "How did you breach this sanctum?" Jack shrugged, the picture of nonchalance. "Oh, you know how it is. One minute you're trying to sell some totally legit Rigelian spice, the next you're chatting up a being of pure energy. Just another day in the Outer Rim, am I right?" Zixra watched in amazement as Jack engaged the ethereal in casual conversation, his seemingly random topics and tangents keeping Zephyr off balance and intrigued. She marveled at his ability to navigate this unprecedented situation with such apparent ease. As Jack continued to distract their target, Zixra noticed something odd. Each time Zephyr's attention fully focused on Jack, its connection to the station's systems seemed to weaken slightly. An idea began to form in her mind, not a fully developed plan, but a possibility, an opportunity. Moving with the stealth that had made her the Syndicate's top assassin, Zixra circled behind Zephyr, her eyes scanning the room for anything she could use. Her gaze fell on a cluster of data crystals, each pulsing with stored information. "And that's why you should never trust a Venusian bartender with your credit chit," Jack was saying, his hands gesticulating wildly. "But hey, enough about me. What's a nice energy being like you doing in a place like this?" As Zephyr launched into an explanation of its market manipulation schemes, its form swelling with pride, Zixra made her move. With precise movements, she began rearranging the data crystals, creating a complex geometric pattern that she hoped would resonate with the ethereal's energy frequency. Jack's eyes flicked to her for just a moment, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He understood her plan, or at least understood that she had one. "You know," he said, drawing Zephyr's attention back to him, "I've always wondered what it's like to be a being of pure energy. Must be pretty liberating, right? No physical form to worry about, no pesky biological needs." As Jack continued to engage their target, Zixra completed her impromptu energy trap. It wasn't based on any known scientific principle or assassin's technique. Instead, it was a product of intuition, of reading the ebb and flow of energy in the room and adapting to it. It was, she realized with a start, exactly the kind of improvisation that Jack excelled at. "Now, Zixra," Jack suddenly shouted, diving to the side. Without hesitation, Zixra activated the data crystals. They hummed to life, creating a complex energy field that engulfed Zephyr. The ethereal's form pulsed and writhed, caught off guard by the unexpected attack. What is this?" Zephyr's harmonic voice wavered, its tendrils of energy thrashing wildly. "Let's call it a paradigm shift," Jack grinned, producing a small device from his pocket. "Care to do the honors, partner?" Zixra stepped forward, her compound eyes fixed on their trapped target. In that moment, she felt a profound change within herself. She wasn't following a plan or relying on pre-programmed responses. She was adapting, improvising, embracing the chaos that she had feared for so long. With a decisive motion, she took the device from Jack and activated it. A pulse of energy shot forth, interfacing with the field created by the data crystals. Zephyr's form began to destabilize, its coherent energy patterns breaking down into random fluctuations. "No," the ethereal cried, its voice distorting. "You cannot. Cannot." In a final burst of light, Zephyr's form collapsed in on itself, compressed by the energy field into a small inert crystal. The hum of power in the room faded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Zixra stood motionless, staring at the crystal in her hand. She had just accomplished what she had believed to be impossible, using methods that went against everything she had ever known. "Nice work, Bug Eyes," Jack said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Knew you had it in you." I do not understand," Zixra replied, her voice tinged with wonder. "How did we succeed? There was no plan, no calculated strategy." Jack chuckled. "Sometimes the best plan is to have no plan at all. You saw an opportunity and you took it. That's the beauty of chaos. It creates possibilities you could never predict." As alarms began to blare throughout the station, signaling the sudden absence of Zephyr's influence, Zixra felt a profound shift in her worldview. She had always seen the universe as a place of order, of predictable cause and effect. But now, she understood that true mastery came not from controlling chaos, but from learning to dance with it. "We should leave," she said, her tone more relaxed than Jack had ever heard it. "I believe I have an idea for our exfiltration." Jack's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Oh, do tell." As Zixra outlined her improvised escape plan, involving a commandeered maintenance droid and a creative use of the station's waste disposal system, she felt a new kind of excitement coursing through her. For the first time in her career, she wasn't just executing a mission. She was truly alive in the moment, embracing the unpredictable nature of the universe. And as they made their daring escape from Nexus 9, Zixra realized that she had gained more than just a successful mission. She had found a new way of seeing the world, a new edge that made her not just a perfect assassin, but an adaptive, unstoppable force. The paradigm had indeed shifted, and Zixra was ready to explore the chaos that lay ahead.